Hello, hello, welcome to July. And if you're anything like me, you are excited about the wonderful amount of bounty that's currently out in the marketplace, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. We're right in the heart of summer season, and there's farmers markets everywhere with so much food, it's hard to even know where to begin. I like to play, I like to move around and do all kinds of things. But the other thing that I do enjoy this time of year is spending a lot of time in my kitchen because there is so much you can do with plants, right? It's just amazing to me how you can go to the farmer's market or walk into your garden and suddenly you have an abundance of food that you simply can do anything with. And several months ago, I read a quote by a cookbook author that I just cannot seem to get rid of. It always sticks in my mind. If she couldn't fathom the fact that so many people assume that because you're plant-based and that because you don't eat meat, that you're constantly in lack, that you're constantly, searching to replace meat in a specific recipe in order to create something halfway decent to eat. And that was such a shock to her because when you have an abundance of plants at your fingertips, you tend not to think about the lack or missing meat or trying to replace it. Instead, what you tend to start thinking is, how can I bring all these flavors together, all this great nutrition to create a meal that totally wows your senses and makes you just go, wow, this is something that I truly enjoy eating. And I think that might be why I'm so excited this time of year, why I really enjoy cooking, maybe on a different level. I don't obviously, tend to broil and bake things for hours on end. I don't tend to do hearty soups and stews and things like that. But what I do look is to find vegetables, find fruits that I can take them and make them just kind of sing, make them go, wow, this is an absolute joy to work with. Something that just enhances the flavor and make things taste just a little bit brighter. So with that, that's also what I look for in cookbooks this time of year is I want something that maybe takes something a little more traditional or something that, when you read the title, you just kind of go, okay, it's another recipe, using that specific food. And yet when you try it, just the slight change in spice or an addition here and there suddenly makes you go, wow, this is an absolute incredible meal. So when I read about the specific cookbook, again, I tend to try my trusted sources. And when someone makes a recommendation, I give it a try because I figure if they enjoy it, if it's something they're looking forward to, I want to jump in and actually give it a try too. That's how this particular book came across my desk. And if you know anything about me, what I like to do is before I jump right in, especially with a brand new author or brand new recipe writer that I've never heard of before, I like to go and get the book from the library, if at all possible. That way I can sit down, I can go through it, I can read it a little bit, I can pick out a recipe or two to try and just kind of get a taste, get a feeling for how they cook, and if our taste buds mesh, if it's something that I enjoy cooking, if they're too difficult and it's not something that I want to do on a daily basis, I really just kind of dive in, and from there then I make a decision, is this a keeper or not? And it's funny anymore, it's getting easier and easier for me to find those keepers. And I knew I had it with this month's cookbook after one recipe. Actually, it was after just reading his first few pages, but definitely after the first recipe that I created. So this month's cookbook for July is called Vegetable Kingdom, and it is by a chef, Bryant Terry. So as you can see, my library book placed the order, have my book ready to go here hopefully soon in the next couple days. But this book is absolutely incredible, and I'm looking forward to keeping this on my shelf all summer long. The very first recipe that I cooked, because I had just picked up a fennel at the farmer's market, was a simple recipe called chickpeas, fennel, and potatoes. I mean, when you see a recipe like that again, you're like, okay, it's tends to be more of the same: chickpeas, fennel, and potatoes. But going through the list again, it had a whole host of spices, that I might not normally mix together, especially with those three specific ingredients. And one taste, and I think my husband said it all. He was like, "Wow, just the flavor that was in that specific recipe created an astounding meal. We absolutely fell in love with it. And the best part is, cooking for two, we had plenty of leftovers, so we could have it the next day as well for lunch." I think one of the things that initially attracted me to this book too, when I started diving in, as you know, if you've listened to these before, what you realize that I like digging into the table of contents. What does it say? How do they split out their meals? Just how do they organize things? And again, I knew this was going to be a different one because it's not breakfast, lunch, and dinner like so many people have organized their cookbooks. This one is actually sorted out by seeds, bulbs, stems, flowers, fruits, leaves, fungi, tubers, and roots. I mean, how incredible is that? So you can go to a specific page, which in the case of this is exactly what I did to find that meal. I had just picked up a fennel. So I went to the bulbs section and looked through the recipes for fennel, and that's how I found that specific one. The other thing that really intrigues me about this cookbook is he believes more in all the senses, and that's something that's long been a part of my life. I believe that, if you go through sight and touch and feel and sound and all the different senses that we have, when you start combining them together, that's when you get just a lot of really gorgeous things happening. That's something that I think that you figure that out over time. And if you want to get better, if you want to fall in love with your kitchen, I would highly suggest that you bring other senses into play when you cook. Start up your favorite tunes, just put in your headphones, or if you have something available there in your kitchen, listen to some music along with it, and it can bring you into the moment. It can romanticize your food. It can make it more appealing. There's so much about that. Obviously you're going to get the touch as you're cooking with the vegetables and the sense of smell that just comes from working with different types of food. Visual is obviously always a part of it because you're trying to make it look appealing as you're cooking it, as well as when you're plating it. To me, it all kind of works hand in hand. But when you can also incorporate sound, music into it too, it just kind of kicks things up just a little bit, makes the whole process a little more gorgeous. And that was something that, again, when I opened up this book and started reading it, that I really appreciated about Bryant too, is he has a section in here all about music. So he'll have the standard things, especially with more plant-based books that I found, where he lists tools and things that you can add into your kitchen, especially if you're not completely into plant-based and it's still kind of a new process for you. But I turned the page, and on there he actually has an entire page about a playlist and how much music is a part of his life and influential in the way that he cooks, in the way that he operates as a chef. And I love it because he has 2 full pages of music that inspired him for all of the different recipes that he created in this book. So when you go to each of the recipes, in the ingredients section, he actually lists out the song and the artist that he recommends to play while you make that particular meal. And I tried that. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing too. So you can kind of get a flavor of what his thought process was like, of how he feels the meal, the energy of the meal, the energy of the plants, and what he's trying to achieve with that specific recipe. So something new to try, especially if you grab this book. I'd highly recommend it, and give that a try too. Incorporate that sense, the sense of hearing, the sense of familiarity with that as well. And I think one of the neat things with that is the next time you hear that song or that music, it brings a recall back, and you can start tasting the foods, maybe having the same experience. Of course, for me right now, The sun is shining. Everything is just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful here. So if I'm not out away from my house on picnic and being in concerts and all kinds of things like that, I'm definitely on my back patio. Every meal is out of my back patio right now, enjoying all the plants. I went a little overboard this year. I have plants everywhere out there. But that's what makes it all about gorgeous living, right? That's what turns your meals into something truly spectacular. I love heading out there and in the evening after cooking, sitting down and just enjoying some conversation, enjoying some great meal, and enjoying some music along with it. And now I have some new music to play with my next recipe. Highly recommend Vegetable Kingdom by Bryant Terry. You're going to love it as much as I do.